This conference will now be recorded.
चतुर्मुख समारंभां वाग्भटाचार्य मध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रागादिरोगान् सततानुषक्तान् अशेषकायप्रसृतान् अशेषान् औत्सुक्यमोहारदिदान् जघान यो पूर्ववैद्याय नमोऽस्तु तस्मै। Namaskaram to all. So today we will discuss the Samyak Lakshana, Asamyak Lakshana of Snehapana. We have gone through the sloka in our last session, but we will see it once again for the sake of continuity. Vadanulomyam Deeptogni Varcha Snigdham Asamhadam Snehodvegah Klamaha Samyak Snigdhe रूक्षे विपर्ययः अतिस्निग्धे तु पाण्डुत्वं घ्राणवक्त्रगुदस्रवाः। वातानुलोम्यं दीप्तोऽग्निर्वर्चः स्निग्धमसंहतं स्नेहोद्वेगः क्लमः सम्यक् स्निग्धे। Samyak snigdhe. So when there is samyak snigdhada, proper snigdhada, the level of snigdhada, what is intended to achieve with the procedure. Samyak snigdhe, vadanulomyam, 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 anulomata of Vayu. Anulomata, we saw the other thing. It is the proper way of movement, especially in the case of Vayu. So there is Vadanulomata. Agnir Deeptaha. Agnihi Deeptaha. Deeptaha, properly working. Agni is properly working. Agni Deepti is not Tikshnaagnita or Tikshnagnitva. Agni Deepti is properly functioning, optimally functioning status of Agni. Varchaha Snigdham Asamhadam. Varchaha Shagrit. Snigdham Asamhadam Cha. The Shakrit becomes Snigdham and Asamhatam. Asamhatam Samhati Rupaha. So it is something like a stuck together situation. That stuck together situation is lost in Asamhada Avastha. So that way it becomes loose. So Snigdham and Asamhadam Varchaha. Then Sneho Udvegaha. Sneha Udvegaha. Sneho Udvegam means we saw the other day. It is something like a feeling of dislike which goes to the level of disgust, and in our some very interesting Malayalam commentaries we find this Snehodvegata as, even if you talk about Sneha, that creates some sort of a hrillasam, some sort of a nauseating feeling. So that is the extent of Snehodvegam that is felt. Snehodvegaha. Some commentators can be seen explaining it as Sneha Udgaram. So Sneha coming up in the form of Udgara. But I think the other one looks better and sensible as we are discussing about the Samyak Snigdha Lakshana. So Snehodvegaha, Klamaha. Klamaha is a state of lethargy or fatigue. The individual shows some sort of a lethargy that he denies sometimes even to get up from the bed, and hardly he can walk a few steps. So that is the level of klamam happening in the so-called samyag lakshana of sneha. So snehodvegaha klamaha samyak snigdhe. In samyak snigdhavastha, these are the lakshanas that we find. In there are some modified versions regarding this samyak lakshana, samyak snigdha lakshana. In Ashtanga Sangraham, we will find Vadanulomyam, Deeptogrihi, Varchaha, Snigdham Asamhadam, Mridu Snigdhangada, Mridu Snigdhangada. So, if you feel the body of the patient by touch, you will feel that Snigdhangada and Mardava, Mridu Snigdhangada. And it can go up to the level of seeing the sneha coming out through the Romagubas, that you can find the presence of sneha even in the Romakupas. So to that extent the Mrudu Snigdhangada goes, and Glanihi. So here the word used is Glani instead of Klamam. Snehodvegaha adhalakhavam. Lakhavam. Though in spite of all these klamam and all these things, the individual reports lakhavam, lekhuta of shariram. Then vimalendriyada samyak snigdhe. Vimalendriyada. So there is one more feature called Vimalendriyada. Vimalam Vigada Malavastha. Malam Malinyam. So Vigada Malinyavastha. So in the Indriyas, suppose the Indriyas are compared with the mirror. Actually, that is a comparison which makes sense, because through the Indriyas we get the images of the outside world in different form, And when we put all the images together, we will get the complete idea. Images in the form of touch, shape, smell, and all those things. So that way it makes sense to compare the indriyas into compare it with the mirror. So when the mirror is samalam or malinam, the image also will be blurred or malinam. So here we find vimalendriyata. There is vigata malinyavastha of the indriyas. So that will be felt in as the clarity of the sensory perception. Clarity of the sensory perception. Vimalendriyata samyak snigdhe. So a few more items can be seen added in the sangraham, or otherwise in hridayam we can find a few items are avoided or omitted from the list of ashtanga sangraham. Maybe in charaka samhita it is almost same as we find in the case of Ashtanga Hridayam. Maybe slight differences may be there. Ashtanga Hridayam and Charaka Samhita. Vadhanulomyam Deeptogrihi Varchaha Snigdham Asamhadam Mardavam Snigdhada Change. So that Mrudu Snigdhangada is taken as such from Ashtanga Sangraha. Or Ashtanga Sangraha took it as such from Charaka Samhita. When we consider the chronology of authors in time, Mardavam Snigdhada Change Snigdhanam Ubajayade. That is what we find in Charaka Samhita. If you go to Susruta Samhita, we will find some interesting observations. What are they? Susnigdha Twag Vitshaidhilyam Deeptognirmrudugatrada Glanir Lagavamanganam Adhastal Sneha Darshanam. Susnigdhatvag Vitshaidhilyam Deeptognirmrudugatrada Glanirlaghavamanganam. So Susnigdha Twag. Twag Susnigdha. Vid Shaidhilyam. Say Deeptognihi Mrudugatrada. Gatramardavam. Glanihi Laghavam Anganam. Anganam Laghavam. Adhastal Sneha Darshanam. Adhastal Sneha Darshanam. So this Adhastal Sneha Darshanam is a very special observation made by Sushruta. Adhastal Sneha Darshanam. So how will you make out that Lakshana? That is a problem. Because there is another Lakshana called Varchasnigdham Asamhadam. So there is Asamhada Snigdha Varchastvam. Asamhada Snigdha Varchastvam. So Varchas is Snigdham already. And it is Asamhadam also. So there is Snigdha Varchastvam, and now we find Adhastal Sneha Darshanam. So it needs a very careful observation. Otherwise, you may think the Sneha Darshanam as the Sneha which is present in the Varchas. And one of my uh, Gurujis, most respected K. Rajagopalan sir, he was a very legendary Vaidya scholar and practitioner of Kerala who is no more. In his work called Panchakarma Chigilsasara Sangraham, he tried to explain this particular point, Adhastal Sneha Darshanam. It attracted his uh, see the clinician's mind because of the practical importance. And he comments, he writes, this Varchasnigdham Asamhadam or Asam visible from the third day or fourth day onwards itself, where there is no other Samyak Snigdha Lakshanas. So this Varchasnigdham Asamhadam and the Athastal Sneha Darshanam should not be confused between one another. And he clarifies that this Adhastal Sneha Darshanam should be understood as presence of Sneha Bindus either independently or mixed with the Mala, which will stand separated from the Mala, or Sneha Bindus appearing as such unattached with the Mala. So that should be a point of Samyak Snigdhada, and this is to be taken care of. That is what he is commenting in his text. This is very important. The Athastal Sneha Darshanam and the uh, Varchasnigdham Asambhadam. These two features should not be confused between each other. Then I think there may be some more observations in this regard. I think I should tell them right now because these are all practically important points. You cannot take them for granted as such or negate them as such because all these things are practically very, very important. If you go to some later textbooks like maybe Bhava Prakasham, you will find Vadanulomyam Deeptagrihi Varcha Snigdham Asamhadam Mrudusnigdhangada Glanihi Snehadveshodhalakhavam. So this earlier we found the word Snehodvegaha in Sushrutam, in Ashtanga Hrudayam, in Ashtanga Sangraham. In Charaga, we did not find such a statement that Snehodvegaha. And in Bhava Prakasham, he is writing it very specifically as Snehadveshaha Adha Lakhavam Vimalendriyada Samyak Snigdhe. So most of the features are as such, and the Sneha Dvesha Shabdam is very specifically used. And another interesting work which every clinician should read is a text called Vrindamadhavam. I hope everyone will be familiar with these names and contents. Vrindamadhavam is a very important practitioner's manual. There we find Glani Sadanamangana, Glani and Sadanamangana. So there is Sadanamangana means Angasadam, and one more point is added is Glani. So that Glani should be understood as, so Sadanamanganam is the subjective feeling of the individual who is undergoing Snehavanam, whereas Glani is the one which the observer feels with the individual who is undergoing Snehavanam. So the person looks tired and he himself feels tired. That is an observation made by the text called Vrindamadhavam. Glani Sadanamanganam. Then Adhastal Sneha Darshanam. Samyak Snigdhasya Lingani Snehadveshastadhaivacha. Snehadveshastadhaivacha. So we have a spectrum. I think one more point, one more text I can give you in this regard, and that is about, that is the observations by Kashyapa Samhita, which is again very interesting. Kashyapa observes Dhritir Mrudupurishatvam Medha Pushti Tejasam Vruddhihi Kale Sharira Vrittihi Snigdhasya Vadandi Lingani. So he is more specific about certain things. Mrudupurishatvam is there. Dhriti. Dhriti is a special word which we do not find, and I think even the commentators are not very specific about this opinion of Kashyapa Samhita. And Dhriti is a word which is used in different context with a different sense. Dharanam, the capacity to hold. Then another interesting point with Kashyapa Samhita is Medha Pushtyagni Vruddhihi. So take that Medha from this line, we have to conclude that, or we have to assume that the Dhriti is also a cognitive feature. So the individual develops a better capacity of Dhriti, Medha, Pushti, Agni Tejasam, Vruddhihi, Kale Sharira Vrittihi. So that is again about the sustenance of the body. Sharira Vrittihi means the body sustains in good health. Snigdhasya vadam dilingani. So that actually is a very uh, unique way of understanding the Samyak Snigdha Lakshana. So why we find these sort of strange features or strange explanations regarding all these things? And what should we take as our samyak snigdha lakshana in this special context of shodhana chikitsa? That is our challenge. And as I mentioned earlier, we should understand that these explanations by different scholars or different authors do not mean the same uh, context or concept. Even in the explanation of Samyak Snigdha Lakshana by the same author, we should think that there are uh, lakshanas indicating different types of sneha. I mean, the lakshanas of samyak utklishta, samyak samshamita, samyak brahmhita lakshanas are mixed up in these explanations. That is a big crisis. So we have to seek the opinion opinions of Vruddha Vaidyas. That is the that is one way of understanding the uh, सम्यक् उत्कृष्टस्नेहलक्षण स्नेहोत्कृष्टलक्षण. This is a little bit tough area. I do not know whether I should go for this much complications, but I think this is very important. As I mentioned in some other context, if we do not discuss it here, I think nobody is going to discuss it anywhere. So I think we will see this. See, in Samyak Snigdha Lakshana of Vakbhada, we find Vadanulomyam Deeptogrihi Varchasnigdhamasamhadam Mridusnigdhangada Snehodvegaha Glani Lakhavam Vimalendriyada. When we combine all those things. And for a better understanding, I am bringing certain lakshanas from a different context. That context is about सम्यक् लङ्घितलक्षण. सम्यक् लङ्घितलक्षण. विमलेन्द्रियदा सर्गोमलानां लाघवं रुजिः क्षुत्रुट्सहोदयः शुद्धहृदयोद्गारकण्ठदा व्याधिमार्दवम् उल्साहः तन्द्रानाशश्च लङ्घिते. That is what we find. विमलेन्द्रियदा सर्गोमलानां लाघवं रुजि क्षुत्रुट्सहोदयः शुद्धहृदयोद्गारकण्ठदा व्याधिमार्दवम् उल्साहः तन्द्रानाशश्च लङ्घिते. Dividho Vakramaniya. And we can find many similarities, certain points, opposite as well. And in Rukshana is a chikilsa. If you take Snehana as a chikilsa, its opposite Rukshana is also a chikilsa. And when is a person uh, called Samyak Rukshida, or when a person can be called as Rukshida, need not be Samyak Rukshida, but Rukshita, then we find Purisham Grathitam Ruksham Krichrad Annam Vipachyate Uro Vidahate Vayu Koshtadubari Dhavati Durvarno Durbalaschaiva Ruksho Bhavati Manavaha. This is the Rukshita Lakshana by Sushruta. Purisham Gradhitam Ruksham Krichradannam Vipachyate. So one after the other. Purisham Gradhidam Ruksham. Here we find Varchasnigdham Asamhadam. Krichradannam Vipachyate. There we find Deeptogni. Uro Vidahade. It is a different one. Vayu Koshtadubari Dhavati. There is Vada Anulomyam. Durvarno Durbalaschaiva Ruksho Bhavati Manavaha, which is again somewhat opposite of what we find there. So while we take all these things, the Ruksha Lakshana and the Snigdha Lakshana, in this context, we can find that the Snehana is almost, Snigdha Lakshana is almost just opposite of the Rukshita Lakshanas. So that way, this snigdhata should be considered as either Shamana Snehana or Brahmana Snehana. Because all the Lakshanas are just opposite of Rukshita Lakshanas. And our Ulkleshana Snehapana is not basically meant for removing Rukshana. Our Ulkleshana Snehapana is not meant for removing Rukshata. Its intention is entirely different. So, and also you may take the Lakshanas as we find in the case of Charagam Vadanilomyam Deeptognir Varchasnigdham Asamhadam Mardavam Snigdhadachange Snigdhanam Upajayade, or the Lakshanas which are given. In the case of Kashyapa Samhita, we found Mrudhridir Mrudupuri Shatvam Medha Pushti Agni Tejasam Mrudhi Kale Sharira Vritti Snigdhasya Vadanti Lingadi. So in all these features, they are more about the Brahmana Snehapana or Shamana Snehapana. But at the same time, from the list, we can make out certain classical features of Ulkleshana Snehapana. They are Susnigdha Tvak. That happens. Susnigdha Tvak to the extent of seeing Sneha through the Romakupas. That is a feature of Ulkleshana Snehapana, and that should not be a feature of Brahmana Snehapana or Shamana Snehapana. That should not happen. If that is happening, it means that the Sneha is not properly processed. So that Susnigdhatvak is a feature. Then Vitshaidhilyam is a feature of Ulkleshana Snehapana. Glani. Glani should not happen in the case of Shamana Snehapanam or Brahmana Snehapanam. Instead, there one should see Medha Pushti Agni Tejasam Vriddhihi. So Glani can be considered as a feature of Ulkleshana Snehapanam. Adhastal Sneha Darshanam. That should not happen in the case of Shamana Snehapanam or Brahmana Snehapanam. Instead, it is a feature of Ulkleshana Snehapanam. The cause we have explained in our previous sessions on how the Ulkleshana Snehapanam is done. Then Snehodvegaha. Snehodvegam also, of course, if the individual is basically or by default snehodvegi, that can happen, and that will happen in the first dose itself. But that need not be the case in a normal subject who has no snehodvega by default and is going through a snehabana for shodhana chikitsa. And at one point, along with the athastha sneha darshanam glani tvakshay, sorry, susnigdhatvak and bitshaidhilyam, if you find the snehodvegam, that should be considered as one among the many features of samyag ulkleshanam. But at the same time, Deeptagnida, Mrudugatratvam, Angalakhavam, Vadanulomyam, Vimalendriyada, these features are more connected with the Brahmana, Shamana, Snehapana. So, we can find that the explanations of these authors many times mix up features, except maybe of Kashyapa. Kashyapa gives it as exclusively Brahmana Shamana Snehapana Samyak Lakshana. So I hope the idea is clear. All those lakshanas given in the textbook as a Samyak Snigdha Lakshana should not be taken as Samyak Snigdha Ulklesana Snehapana Lakshana, but that is restricted to Asamghada Varchastvam Snigdhangada Glanihi Adhastal Sneha Darshanam Snehodvegam. So these five features, from my observation and experience, and taking all the Aptopadeshas into consideration, I would like to give five features as the Samyak Utklishta Lakshana or Samyak Snigdha Lakshana in Utkleshana Snehavana. And they are 1. Asamghada Varchastvam, 2. Snigdhangada, 3. Glani, 4. Adhastal Sneha Darshanam, and 5. Snehodvegam. 5. Snehodvegam. And if you look at the various textbooks, interestingly, the Vrindamadhava Lakshanas, Vrindamadhava Lakshanas make almost a perfect match with what I have told. That means Glani Sadanamanganam Adhastal Sneha Darshanam Samyak Snigdhasya Lingani Snehadveshastadhaivacha. From what I told, that Asambhada Varchastvam is the only one which is missing in Vrindamadhava. That is the only one which is missing in the Vrinda Madhava. So I would like to propose that in this regard, the opinion of Vrinda Madhava is the best suiting one to understand Samyak Snigdha Lakshana in a Utkleshana Snehapada. But all other symptoms are relevant, but there is a mixing up of features. That is the problem. Then Rukshe Viparyayaha. Rukshe Viparyayaha. So that is why it is just because of this line that I explained what is happening in Rukshata. Rukshata I already explained from the Sushruta Samhita in Samyak Rukshana or Rukshita Lakshana Ashtanga Hrudayam Ashtanga Sangraham, we will find it is something like Virukshane Langhanavad Kritati Krita Lakshanam. So it is something like Langhita Lakshana only. But more specifically, we find the Virukshita Lakshana in the Sushruta, which I already explained earlier. That means Purisham Gradhidam Viruksham Krichradannam Vipachyate उरो विदहते वायु कोष्ठादुपरि धावति कोष्ठाद उपरि धावति from the कोष्ठा it runs upward कोष्ठाद उपरि धावति दुर्वर्णो दुर्बलश्चैव रूक्षो भवति मानवः. So that is to be understood in the rukshe viparyayah. Then Adhisnigdhedu Pandutvam Grana Vaktra Gudasrava. Adhisnigdhe tu Pandutvam Grana Vaktra Gudasrava. Pandutvam happens. We will come to it in one of the uh, lines which are going to be explained later. Adhisnigdhedu Pandutvam. Don't think that it is Pandu Roga, but it is Pandutva. Pandvamayam Sonidago. Something like that when there is excessive Shleshma Vruddhi which is uh, getting its seat in Rekta Dhadu, this sort of a feeling or appearance comes. And Grana Vaktra Gudasrava. It is not just the Athastal Sneha Darshanam which may be confused with the Gudasrava, but this is Srava. It is not like Athastal Sneha Darshanam. This is something like a Pichasravam which happens through the Grana and Vaktra as well, apart from the Guda. Grana Vaktra Gudasrava. So after a procedure of Snehapada, if the individual develops Pandutvam and Grana Vaktra Gudasrava, we should understand that it has gone through a stage of Adhisnehana. Adhisnigdhedu Pandutvam Grana Vaktra Gudasrava. So I think that is clear. Now we will move forward to the next sloka. What is that? Amatrayahido kale मिथ्याहार विहारतः स्नेहः करोति शोभार्षस्तन्द्रास्तम्भविसंज्ञताः कण्डूकुष्ठज्वरोल्क्लेश शूलानाहभ्रमादिकान्. अमात्रयाहितो काले मिथ्याहार विहारतः स्नेहः करोति शोभार्ष तंद्रा स्तंभ विसप्यताः कंडूकुष्ठज्वरोल्क्लेश शूलानाः भ्रमादिकान्. Amatraya, in the conventional sense, that will be the padachedam goes like amatraya, ahitaha, kale. But I think that is to be modified a little bit. That amatraya hito and kale, they are to be kept together with that binding sign in between, and it should be, the padachedam should be akale. Amatraya, generally it is explained as ahitaha. It is not ahitaha, it is ahitaha. Amatraya ahitaha. You will find it as ahitaha in Arunadatta, in Hemadri as well, but it is better to explain it as ahitaha, as it is done in the Ashtanga Sangraha. Amatraya ahitaha akale मिथ्याहार विहारतः स्नेहः करोति शोभार्ष तन्द्रा स्तंभ विसप्यता कंडू कुष्ठ ज्वर उत्क्लेश शूल आनाह भ्रमादिगान. In that adi, the pandu will come, pandutvam will come. Many others can also come. Agninasham can come, Grahadi can come, many things. Visarpam can come. So, what is explained? Amatraya ahitaha. Ahitaha means placed or deposited or consumed. Amatraya ahitaha snehaha. Akale ahitaha snehaha. Mithyahara viharataha snehaha. So three possibilities are explained. Number one, amatraya ahitaha snehaha शोभार्षस्तन्द्रास्तम्भ विसप्यताः कण्डूकुष्ठज्वरोत्क्लेश शूलानाः भ्रमादिगान् करोति. Akale ahitaha snehaha, that also does the same karma, the same karma. Then मिथ्याहार विहारतः स्नेहः शोभार्षस्तन्द्रास्तम्भ विसप्यतादीन् करोति. Same result, three situations. Amatraya ahitaha snehaha. So that gives the importance to matra. Amatraya ahitaha snehaha. Regarding the matra. Second is akale ahitaha snehaha. Akale. We found many ideas regarding the kala, importance of kala. First, we found Rudau sadharane sneha shastoni vimale ravau. Then before that we had seen Tailam pravrushi varshande sarpi anyautu madhave. Then in between we also went through Tailam tvarayam shitepi karmepi cha kridam nishi. Then another idea of kalam what we found in between is ह्यस्तरे जीर्ण एवान्ये स्नेहोच्छ्रुद्धये बहुः शमनक्षुद्वदो अनन्नः ब्रह्मणो रसमद्याद्यैः सभक्तः. So all these things are indicative of different aspects of kala. So when akale ahitah snehah, अकाले आहितः स्नेहः शोभार्षस्तन्द्रादीन् करोति. So we find the potential uh, disadvantages and adverse effects of snehapana or sneha prayoga if done improperly. The list is shobharshastandra stambha visapnyataha Kandu Kustajwarolklesha Shulanaha Brahmadikan. There may be many other lakshanas which are not included there. And next we find what should be done. So these situations are known as Sneha Vyapat. These situations are known as Sneha Vyapat. Then what is the parihara, pratikriya for sneha vyapat? That is what we find in the next karika. What is that? Kshutrishnollekhanasveda rukshapananna bheshajam takrarishta ghaloddala yavashyamaga kodravam pippali tribhala kshaudra pathya gomutra guggulu yathaswam pradirogam cha snehavyabhati sadhanam. I will read once again. Kshutrishnollekhanasveda rukshapanannabheshajam takrarishtaghaloddala yavashyamaga kodravam pippali triphala kshaudra pathya gomutra guggulu yathaswam pradirogam cha snehavyapadi sadhanam. Chut, trit, chut and trit, two members in the panel of Shamana Chikitsa. Chut, trit, chut sahanam and trit sahanam. Ullekhanam, vamanam, ullekhanam, svedam, rukshapanannabheshajam, rukshapanam, rukshannam, rukshabheshajam. Takrarishtaghaloddala yavashyamaga takram arishtam ghalam is a annavishesham. Uddalam is a dhanya vishesham. Yavam, shyamagam, kodravam, many things. All these things. Pippali, tribhala, kshaudram, pathya, gomutram, guggulu. All these things are yathaswam pradirogam cha snehavyavadi sadhanam. Yathaswam pradirogam cha snehavyavadi sadhanam. So we will go to the details if at all it is required in our next session. Here we find the Snehavyapat sadhanam, Snehavyapat pratikramam or chikitsa. We will go to some details if it is required in our next session. As the time is already 9, I'm winding up. Thank you very much. Shubharatri.
Yes, thank you, Prasad sir, very much for today's session. I think there are a bit queries.
Yeah, those questions are already answered, I think. When I think those
Yes,
questions were there initially, but I think with the explanation of those lakshanas, those uh, questions got answered. That is why I did not go to that. And there is
yes,
one question called what is the Sushruta reference about the Rukshana or Ruksho Bhavani. That Purisham Gridhiram Ruksham Krichradannam Vipachyade Uro Vidahade Vayu Koshtadubari Dhavadi Durvarno Durbalaschaiva Ruksho Bhavadi Manavaha. That can be seen in Sushrudam regarding that is Chikitsa.
yes. Thank you, Prasad sir. I think with this we will call it for the day and meet in our next session.
Right. Thank you. Shubharatri to all.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Shubharatri.